All right, welcome back to Blow Up the Team. Once again, I'm Matt, and today we're going to be looking at some MLB preseason gradings. And today we're going to Chicago again to do the White Sox. The White Sox last season were pretty bad. They struggled in everything, really. Their pitching, for the most part, wasn't good, with the exception of a few, and their hitting wasn't really there. But they did turn a really big corner this last offseason. Yeah, they were 72 and 89, and I think they're definitely finally turning the turning over a new chapter, and definitely going to be a much more competitive team. Definitely, it easily should be over 500. They put together a really solid squad and were very active in the postseason. And so, uh, let's just get right into it. Uh, Lineup is pretty solid. Headed off by Tim Anderson. He won the batting title last year. He's, you know, very much becoming a pretty well-known name in the sport. The White Sox put a lot into him because he's so young. He's only 26, winning the batting title last year, but he struggled a lot in 2018 and 2017. He only hitting 257 and 240 for a guy who was supposed to be so huge for them. And last year he turned it up. Hit a lot of he hit some pretty big home runs. He hit 335, and by big home runs, I don't mean like he hit a lot of. He only hit 18, but I mean, like, he had some very memorable ones. One off of that got him plunked by Brad Keller, which caused a whole debate in the MLB scene. Um, that being said, there are holes in his game, like really, really glaring holes. Uh, Hitting wise, he's great when he makes contact. He obviously has the eye skills to make lots of contact, but you know, trying to do anything like an average like he had last season while only walking 15 times to 109 strikeouts, that's a little rough. No, I've listened to him talk on podcasts and interviews before, and he's pretty confident in his approach, but obviously walking isn't everything, but it's helpful to move that on base percentage up a bit because like he's got it's such a like his bat is such a huge asset, and being able to get him to walk more would be huge because he, you know, walked double the amount of times last year. I mean, obviously he was struggling more last year, but if he can walk more and keep somewhat of a similar batting average, he'll be even more of a threat in the lineup. His biggest hole though is his defense. Tim Anderson only played in 123 games last season. In 123 games, he had 22 errors, or 26 errors actually, which was the most in the majors at shortstop. And it was he's got pretty horrific defensive stats all around. He had a pretty good season, but defensively just not good, below average everywhere. He's got a powerful arm, but he tends to just whip it, and sometimes he just loses the ball or like will drop it. Like he just makes lots of like he make when you make lots of errors like that, like you can count up all the errors they have, like you can count up the list of seemingly simple things that get messed up. It's a really his biggest gap in his game. Now, I expect that it'll, you know, based on what he's talked about in in interviews and such, you know, I imagine that'll be what he focuses on the most, since he seems pretty content with how his hitting was last season. I mean, everyone would be if they had 335, but that would probably be his biggest room for improvement this season. You definitely want to see that out of him because 26 errors at one of the hardest defensive position is pretty unacceptable. Now, I understand it is one of the hardest defensive positions, but you got like super utility men like Eric Sogard and even DJ LeMay, played three different positions at different points last year, making single digit errors. Obviously, errors at shortstop are going to happen. It's extremely difficult. You make a diving stop, but you only have like a couple seconds to get on your knees and make a throw across the diamond. It's going to be very difficult to do that, especially that you could be in a lot of different positions. So I'm not like trying to take that away from him. He's definitely at a very difficult position, but he's got to try and work on that this season. Now, moving on, Yoel Moncada. Yoel Moncada got paid $30 million by the Red Sox to never play for them, traded to Chicago. And for a while, it seemed like the Reds. Came over in the Chris Sale deal. Now, obviously, the Red Sox had everything they want out of Chris Sale, so they're never gonna. I'm sorry, he did play a couple games in his 2016 season, but you're never gonna complain about a guy. You can't say it was a bad trade for the Red Sox. It was a great trade for them. They got Chris Sale. They got their ace for the past couple years, and they won a World Series with them. I'm not gonna say anything about that. It definitely looked like the White Sox got the short end of the trade though with him because you know he only hit 230 his first couple of seasons, and but then last year he really put his game together. Good power, 25 home runs, 315 average. Um, his walking strikeouts about league average, a little below league average, but it's you can't ask for literally everything. His defense. Sorry, I had something on his defense. His defense. He's at third base, so and he's going to be a regular fixture there. He did have 15 errors, but once again, something you could probably. I imagine the White Sox focus this season will have to be defense because that left side of their infield does really kind of rough defense. Now, that being said, his overall game is strong. His batting game is strong, and him and Tim Anderson are pretty threatening first two guys to come up. Jose Abreu has been, since he came over from the Cuban League, he's been a fixture for that team, and he struggled a lot in 2018, 2019. Put that behind him at 280, 33 home runs. Yeah, the guy is going to be at first base for as long as he wants to, and he loves playing there, and the fans love him, and the team loves having him there. Like there's no other way to put it. He's just very much uh, a fan favorite and very much a franchise player. And in fact, they signed him to a 3-year extension, which I think, for a guy who's in his 30s, that's perfectly great. For a guy who's been consistently one of the better players on this team, he definitely it's nice that he gets to be there for the up and up now that they're starting to get competitive again. Because you see that a lot, like guys who are there for 6 or 7 years and then end up being gypped when the team finally gets good again. So moving on, your biggest offseason acquisition for any uh, signing wise for a position player. Um, you picked up Yasmani Grandal. He's got the power of being a switch hitter and a power hitter and a catcher. Definitely the best like all around catcher like on the market. Definitely the best catcher on the market without a doubt. And Heine Anthony Rendon was probably the biggest signing. He had 28 home runs last year. He's been hitting 20 something home runs every year. He hits in the 240s, which for a catcher is really good. And he's got a really good eye. He, walks almost as much as he strikes out. And that's pretty huge for a catcher to have such a good bat and also be really good behind the plate. And so, everyone, this guy's going to be a big piece for them. Definitely going to be a big part in why they, perform so well this year. Not to talk down too much about the guys they had behind the plate last year, but definitely a improvement in that aspect. He also signed Edwin Encarnacion to a 1-year deal. He had a really great regular season. He's on a he's approaching a let's see, he's on a current 7-year streak of 30 home runs. I know an 8-year streak of 30 home runs minimum a season. And so he's got a lot of power despite being pretty old. Um, his postseason in the ALDS is pretty nuts. He hit crazy in the ALDS, ALCS. I think he got maybe one hit, walked once, struck out a whole bunch. But anyway, he'll be your general DH. Not really much of a defensive guy. He'll and you can expect him to hit 240s, 250s, but with a lot of power and a fair bit of walking. So definitely good filler piece to have at DH. Um, moving on to Eli Jimenez, he was a super hyped up prospect. He struggled heavily in his first few games, especially up until like the All Star break. He was really struggling, and then he kind of turned it around. He only hit 267, but he managed to hit. But that was a big improvement over where he was, and he also found his power. Hit a lot of 31 home runs, almost all of which were in the second half. So definitely expect to see a better improvement from him. You know, the players fall into two categories really when they're so new to the league. They either struggle in their rookie season, or they struggle in their sophomore season. And he's definitely a rookie season struggler. And so hopefully he can improve quite a bit this season because he is very good. He is very talented, and it's a shame that he doesn't get to play for the Cubs as a beleaguered Cubs fan. Um, Another big acquisition for you is Nomar Mazara from the Rangers. Nomar Mazara has been consistently pretty solid. He hits in the 260s. He doesn't walk a whole, he doesn't walk a lot actually. He's like a 1-5 strikeouts every walk, but he's been a pretty decent outfielder. And they're hoping that coming to a new stadium, playing for a new team, will give him some better results. But overall, he's pretty decent. He hit a moonshot 500-foot home run in Globe Life last year, so that was pretty fun. But definitely gotta see what you get with him, because as he projects out, so far he just seems like a pretty average outfielder. But I think he's shown some really big hot streaks where he's shown that he does have the ability to play with the best up here. So have to wait and see what you get with him. It's expected that Luis Robert will get the call up when the season starts. He's one of your biggest prospects. I think he is actually. Yeah, he's your number one prospect, and he looks like he's going to be a star. He's got all the aspects of one. They actually signed him to a multi-million-dollar deal, despite never playing a major league game. Yeah, he's a one-on-one for his. So, oh wait, hold on. I'm sorry, I'm reading the wrong thing. I thought this was weird. Like, wait a second. No, I got my. Sorry, I swapped in my Larry Garcia notes for Luis Robert. The hell? Anyway, Luis Robert is getting his first his first taste of major league action definitely this season. Um, he's projected to have pretty decent power, some really good contact ability, and some solid fielding. He's supposed to be a pretty complete package. With most of the guys, I'd expect that with most young guys, I'd expect watch for his plate discipline. It's probably not going to be there, but that's something he'll develop. Now we can talk about Larry Garcia. They picked up for $3 million. I was like reading my notes. I'm like, why did I write down he's getting paid $3 million? I was very confused. Gonna be playing second base for you guys. Gonna be swapping out with a couple other guys. You got some guys who can play second base as a backup from your bench. Definitely have to wait and see what ends up happening there, because he's definitely probably the most underwhelming bat in your team. No real power and only hits 260. So, but defensively he's sound, and he had a fairly decent season last year, hitting in like nearly 280. So if you can get a guy with some decent contact skills like that, it'd be a pretty big asset. Your starters. This is another place you made a lot of moves. You got your biggest move was getting Dallas Keuchel. You also picked up Gio Gonzalez, who had a pretty solid season last year after spending a lot of time in the minors because no one was really sure about picking him up, and he proved himself to be a pretty solid pitcher for I think it was the Brewers last season with a 3.5 ERA. Anyway, and so now they signed him. Good move by the White Sox. He's been pretty consistent, and you know what to expect from him. Dallas Keuchel, former AL Cy Young, uh, ground ball specialist, will throw a decent number of innings for you. He struggled in the regular season last year, heated up a lot in September and late August into September. It didn't do too well in the postseason. Had like one good start, one bad start. So not much to be said. I mean, listen, the whole Braves team underperformed last year, but he got a multi-year deal, and so be pretty interesting to see how he performs. However, your ace, without a doubt, is Lucas Giolito. Lucas Giolito went from one of the worst pitchers in the MLB with a 6.13 ERA last season, walking 90, striking out only 125 in 173 innings. He pitched 3 more innings this season, going 14 with a 3.41 ERA, 228 strikeouts, and only 57 walks to it. So in one season, he has completely turned it around, as well as adding nearly 2 miles an hour to his fastball, walking less people, striking out over 100 more, lowering his whip by point 0.4, lowering his ERA in half. Like absolute night and day performance from him. He had a little bit of an injury problem and definitely struggled in the second half compared to his ridiculous first half. He had like for the first month and a half like a point 0.5 ERA or something insane. But he is turning himself into the White Sox new ace. White Sox have really been looking for an ace since Chris Sale left, and so he's definitely last year filled in those shoes. This year will be a big test for him to see if he can keep producing like that. But it was really exciting watching him pitch, and barring him losing his velocity again, I really don't think I think he can, you know, definitely prove himself quite a bit. He's only 25, which is insane that he's pitching so well at such a young age. So definitely excited to watch him, and all fans should be excited for him. Um, you got a couple project pieces in the rotation. Got Dylan Cease, or sorry, Lopez, who had a pretty awful season last year. Uh, 10, 15, 5.38 ERA. Not really anything to write home about. He's got good velocity as fastball, but something's not clicking there. So hopefully you can see a turnaround from him. You have Dylan Cease, another another guy you're hoping to see more from. He came up only last year, and uh, so he only pitched in about 73 innings and had a 5.79 ERA. So hopefully he can start to show more this season because he's like once again he's got a big fastball, 96 average, and so hopefully you can start to see him develop more and improve. And that's something that you have to really remember at this team. This team is not fully there. They're getting pretty close to being there, but they're not fully there yet. And so this is definitely like a wild card team we're talking about with the significant lacking in like pitching. So anyway, Michael Kopech, who when he came up in 2018, everyone was really excited about him because he's the flamethrower. He throws insanely hard, but after only 14 innings pitched, he had a 5.02 ERA and needed Tommy John. So he missed all last year. Hopefully he can get a decent start to the season this year and actually be able to pitch a full season. So that'd be pretty important for this team to get because he was supposed to be your big guy in 2019. Now that you have Lucas Giolito stepping up, hopefully more of that stress will be off his shoulders and he can just focus on, improving himself and pitching at the major leagues because this guy has been a top prospect for a while and he's only 24 this season. Moving on to the bullpen. You made some moves here. Last year you had Alex Colomé. Alex Colomé had a pretty good season. I saw a lot of White Sox fans on Twitter complaining about him, but like he had a 2.80 ERA, 30 saves in 61 innings. He relies a lot on his cut fastball. It's a pretty good cut fastball compared to like league average ones, and he throws it really hard in like the mid 90s. And so have to it's not his first time serving in the closer role for you guys. So hopefully he can continue to do what he did last season. And overall, I'd be pretty happy with him in the bullpen. Definitely a guy who can put in a lot of work for you. Um, so overall, pretty solid. You have Aaron Bummer, who had a pretty huge breakout last year, 67 innings pitched out of the bullpen, 2.13 ERA, 60 strikeouts. Not a big strikeout guy, but he's got the tools to get people out. And so he's pretty huge. He'll be a great setup man to, help Alex Colomé. You also signed Steve Cishek. Steve Cishek, the Cubs, I think, biggest mistake this offseason, not re-signing him. White Sox made themselves a really good deal to get him because he is an excellent bullpen arm. He has been for years. Like just looking at his career numbers, he had like a blip in 2015 with a 3.58, and a year before that he's a 3.17. Everything else sub 3 for his entire career. Decent strikeout to walk ratio, decent. He throws this pretty interesting sidearm delivery, and overall a lot of fun to watch. And he's been one of the better relievers in the league, putting together a really good year. He also will pitch. So yeah, he's been putting together a pretty solid career, and he'll pitch in a lot of games for you guys. He'll pitch a lot of innings for you guys. Definitely got a great deal on him. very excited to see what he does here. So that's a pretty solid big three guys. There you start to see some mix and match. You have Carson Fulmer, who has definitely struggled a lot in his career. Um, there's not really. You got Kelvin Herrera, who had really struggled last year after having a breakout, after having 3 years in a row being very dominant. So definitely the hope with him is that you can get him to his dominant, like a new year from 2014 to 2016 or his 2018 form. Because 2017 and 2019 are pretty rough for him, to say the least. So hopefully you can turn him around. And if you can get him to do anything like he did before, great, great value from him. Um, but yeah, overall, the rest of the bullpen is kind of just average to pretty good. Um, Jimmy Cordero had a pretty good season last year and only 37 innings, but a 2.89 ERA. But a lot of these guys are like, like I said, average to project. But your top three guys in the bullpen are pretty good. And generally, when you're looking at a bullpen, you really need to have three good guys, and you have three really good guys in your top three. So definitely a solid strength. So we've gone to the grades. Oh yeah, I guess we do this part first now. We
I
have five
swear
people to talk.
I swear I know your videos better than you know your
Well, no,
videos.
so I thought I always try to do one before the other, and I always try to
I mean, if you
do the
want to
grades
switch it,
before I do this.
we can do this one first. It's just normally
No,
we
no, no.
skip
This
this
is
one.
this is fine.
Okay.
Um, anyway, Tim Anderson, definitely the number one guy to watch out for on this team. If he could do, he put up ridiculous numbers offensively last season. Want to see him do it again. Want to see him show some more consistency, show some more walking. Big thing you need to look out for is his defense. See if he can improve that because his hitting has shown that it's there. So overall, probably the most the most exciting young players to watch, in my opinion. Yellow Jimenez. Uh, Going next. Lucas Giolito. We want to see him do, exactly what he did last season. Continue to put up those numbers, big strikeouts. Keep the walks down, keep the fastball up. Like he can be a monster out there, and I think he's developing into one. So, I definitely just wanted to see consistency out of him. See him do what he did last season. Give him a chance to really develop as the ace he's showing himself to be. So, your most exciting rotation piece going next. Yasmani Grandal, he's your biggest acquisition. They couldn't find any spring training pictures of him, but he's your biggest acquisition. He's your most exciting guy new guy, I should say. And I felt bad not putting Jose Ramirez in the no, Jose Abreu in these, but like everyone knows what Jose is going to do. These are you want to see your acquisitions do well. Everyone knows Jose Abreu is going to do what he always does, hitting 30 home runs and being just an overall rock for that team. So definitely, got to watch out for. He's your big acquisition. You got him for 4 years at 73 million. So I think one of the highest paid on that team. I'm not sure if Jose Abreu's is higher. I think his might be higher. I think Yasmani Grandal is the highest paid person on that team. So you definitely want to see him perform. And if he can keep doing what he's been doing, you're getting a great, great value for him. Dallas Keuchel. He struggled in the regular season, and he's struggled so far in spring training. But he is your big rotation addition, and he can definitely, you know, throw it with the best of them. So obviously his, youngest years are behind him, but he still is very, very solid pitcher and should be very good for you for the next 3 years. I think you signed him for, maybe four. So definitely watch out for him. He's going to be your probably most important. He is your most important piece for if you guys make a wild card run or not, because it's going to rely a lot on how your pitching performs because your lineup is definitely strikes out too much, but is overall like solid enough to get you a lot of wins. The question is, can Dallas Keuchel and Lucas Giolito carry this rotation? And so that like, remains to be seen. Who's going next? Alex Colomé. He's your closer. He's the best, most important person in your bullpen. Look for him to do exactly what he did last season. He put up some of his best numbers last season, and so he is you're rocking that bullpen. So hopefully he can continue to show that. And yeah, so those are your guys to really watch out for on this team. So yeah, lineup overall very solid hitting, but they do have gaps. Their overall hitting game is really good, but the strikeouts are really intense for this team. The only two people who really, the only person who walks decently on this team is Yasmani Grandal. Edwin Encarnacion is your second man behind him, like that, and then the rest of them don't really walk nearly enough. So you got a big gap in your offense there. Like obviously, walking isn't everything, especially in today's game, but getting guys on base is very important for the guy. These guys can hit 40 home runs, but if they're all solo shots, that's not good enough. So it's not gonna be good enough for a team that's trying to make the playoffs. So definitely need to look for that. So overall, I'd say you have a pretty, and also defensively, your lineup struggles a lot. And so lineup, I'm gonna give it a B because it has some very clear strengths, but you have some very clear weaknesses, especially in the defense and especially in the striking out. Got to get at least one of those things going in the right direction this season. Bullpen, I'm actually gonna give it a B minus. I'm pretty harsh on bullpens, but the most important thing is that this bullpen has the three really strong guys and a bunch of guys who have been pretty solid, but just don't have a whole lot of time yet to show that they're going to keep up those numbers. So definitely a solid bullpen, and definitely a threatening top three. But you also do have a lot of prospects like Carson Fulmer and Kelvin Herrera and where is he? Jace Fry and some other guys who are going to be projects. Oh, Ross Detweiler too. I totally missed him. Rotation, it's gonna be another B minus for me. Got two pretty solid, well-rounded guys in Giolito and Keuchel. You got a veteran pitcher in Gio Gonzalez. The question is, the other three guys in your rotation, can they perform? Can they do better than what they did last year? Renato Lopez was horrible last year. Dylan Cease was horrible last year. Michael Kopech hasn't pitched in the major since 2018. So definitely a lot of question marks in this rotation. But overall, steps in the right direction, which is important. And so overall, I expect this team to be in the race for the wild card. I don't expect them to win the division. I think the Minnesota Twins and even the Indians have significantly better teams than the White Sox. So, however, they do have a very good team, and I think they will challenge Cleveland a bit in that wild card race. Am I convinced they're going to make the postseason? No, but definitely 21. Expect to see White Sox making more moves and more trades in the right direction. So that's all I've got. Want to add anything, Jeremy?
Yeah. I mean, it kind of seems like they finally have, kind of started to turn themselves around a little bit. They were kind of one of the worst teams in the league from what I know, which is very limited, but one of the worst teams in the league for a few years. So it's good to finally see them kind of starting to look like they could turn it around.
It's really great. I was watching one game last year where they walked off the Red Sox. It was awesome because I was surrounded by Red Sox fans.
Yeah, I've definitely told the story before, but the only thing I remember from the White Sox is when they gave up 3 home runs to Manny Machado in his first three at bats by the third inning. That's the only thing I remember. Um,
I actually went to a White Sox game. It was July 4th. It was the day after I went to the Cubs game where I watched them beat the White Sox. They were against the Royals, and overall the game I had my first Chicago dog. That was fun. Chicago dogs. Everyone says they're weird. They're great. They're delicious. I love them. Anyway, went there. It was a pretty fun game. Adam Dunn was hitting below 200. He was getting booed. I felt bad for him. Hits like 2 home runs. It was awesome. Everyone was going crazy. Adam Dunn, one of the weirdest careers in the MLB. One of my favorite guys to talk about stats wise because he's just like pure three true outcomes: strikeout, walk, or home run. But anyway, he hit a couple home runs, which was awesome. And I got to watch a walk off
a walk-off walk,
balk
balk with a B. Oh, that's pretty
with a B.
tragic.
It was tragic, and I was so confused as to what happened because the pitcher made some move, and then everyone was kind of quiet, waiting for the pitch to happen, and then they noticed the players moving, and then they noticed the guy running home. It was like a delayed reaction, and then everyone's like, "Yeah, we won! What happened?"
Fair enough.
So I asked my dad like 5 times that night what a balk was, but anyway,
Well, if that's all you've got, I think that's it for today. Do you know what team you have going on tomorrow? That's the question. You got back-to-back videos this week.
yes, I do. I have the shit. It's the Padres tomorrow.
Yes, it is. So, make sure to come back for that. I'm gonna let you
Yeah,
outro your own
and
video.
then go ahead and like, comment, and subscribe. If you liked it, let me know. If got a different opinion, you want to let me know, go in the comments. I'll respond. I'm always looking for people to talk baseball with. I desperately miss the sport. Go ahead and join our Discord. Follow our social media, Twitter, Instagram. Pretty fun. Yeah.
All right. Well, with that being said, we will see you tomorrow. Go make sure to check out my Jacksonville Jaguars draft recap from yesterday, along with all the other videos on our channel. And we will see you next time. Peace.